Dead Pair Podcast is brought to you by Kolar Arms, America's competition shotgun, and is fueled by Fiocchi.
Welcome to the Dead Pair Podcast, coming in hot with everything you want to hear about sporting clays. With your hosts, Jason Rambo.
This is what I had to work with, everyone.
And Sean Alley.
Like I said, I was just thirsty.
Oh, boy.
Often imitated, but never duplicated. It's the Dead Pair Podcast. It's showtime.
Welcome back, everyone, and welcome back, Mr. Tracy Wright. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very good.
Yeah, how are things out there in Washington?
You know, things have been a little rough in Washington, to be honest. We had an epic historic fire that burned 700 homes. They arrested somebody who has basically admitted to it, and they've set 25 other fires. So hopefully the fires slow down.
Oh, my goodness.
And the smoke clears here soon, but we are completely socked in with smoke and heat. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been a little crazy. We've got a really, really bad air quality right now. So
time
inside.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, stay in. But speaking of smoke,
yes,
against my better judgment and against the request of 99.8% of our listeners, joining us back again, Mr. David Riblet Radulovich. What's up, David?
Oh, just stuffing my face with these ribs.
David, we had so many people walk up to us at Ohio State and said Riblet had nothing to do with your shotgun. But I'm just going to leave that out there. Okay. Let everybody figure it out on their own. But anyway, how are you, David?
Oh, can't complain. Everything's good. I'm up in New York at Rochester teaching now. Was able to just visit the Ohio State shoot and at Hillendale, and it was absolutely beautiful. And congratulations, by the way, Jason, on your win.
Thank you.
And then afterwards, on Wednesday, I was teaching a few days at Hillendale, and then I moved over to Airport Ridge and was able to visit that club for the first time. And it was long overdue, and they're the host of the 2027 Ohio State Championship. And all I have to say, and I may get crap for this, but I mean, my God, I cannot believe that people think that Florida or Texas is the best place to live if you like shooting. Because in Ohio, I would challenge anybody to pick a place that you can live and within a 1 hour drive, be able to be at better clubs than Hillendale, Cardinal Center, and Airport Ridge. That is unbelievable. Airport Ridge is,
yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Did I let you down on my description?
Jason, I told you this on the phone, but I'm going to say it again. Some people that are listening to this will know like how much I am into photography, especially like landscape photography. I've done it for years, and I always like to try to document, when I go to shoots, I like to photograph, a lot of competitors. And then when I go to clubs, just to try to help the clubs out, I really enjoy, doing landscape photography at the clubs to try to just show off how beautiful that they are in a way, because, every time that we go to a tournament and there's 600 to 1,000 people at the club, everybody kind of has to take photos of the people, and very rarely do we have an opportunity to get photographs of the place. Right. And so every time that I go to clubs when I'm teaching or something, and I have the opportunity to stay later and take some like really nice landscape photographs to show off the place, I try to take the opportunity to do so. And I mean, as you know, and as anybody who has, been involved with watching the live broadcasts and stuff, I mean, I have a serious collection of photography equipment. Yeah. And I, for the first time in my life, did not have the proper lens to photograph a gun club. I mean, literally, I needed to go home and get my astrophotography lens to be able to photograph this place, because the terrain there is, I'm not exaggerating when I say, quite possibly one of the best, coolest topography layouts in the world. I mean, the courses there are unbelievable. And I mean, you drive there and it's dead flat because of that airport that's right there. And, 50 yards away from the airport is the most ridiculous shooting terrain I've seen in years. I mean, short of going up into Washington at Tracy, what's that place that had the,
Okay.
what's it called?
Are you talking about Top Gun, the Western Open?
Top Gun, yeah. Short of that place, or like Big Sky up in Montana, that gun club that had the U.S. Open in like 1992. I highly doubt you're going to find places that are as cool as what we have in Ohio.
Yeah.
Well, Tracy,
clubs.
David promised everybody he was going to show up for Ohio State, and he did.
I did.
But he didn't get there till Sunday. So,
That's all right. Better late than never, right?
Hey, you never asked what day I'd be there.
Sorry, he let us down on the squad, and that's okay. That's all right. It's all good. But yeah, we were talking, David and I were on the phone about the Ohio State shoot, and he was talking about my win and stuff, and I kind of found something. And look, this isn't like a secret pill or a magic pill for anybody, but Tracy, I call it reverting back to my STS method, which is slow down, stupid. And let me explain for everyone. Slow down, stupid doesn't mean I'm, a fast pre-shot routine or I'm shooting fast or anything. It was just basically my thought process. And, I get wound up quick. Chad calls me rev limiter, but when I miss a target, I let that frustration boil over, and I let one miss turn into two, into three, into whatever.
Yeah.
And it was basically just, wait a minute, slow down a minute. Let's think about this for a minute. Okay, why was there a miss? You can't get that target back, so forget about that.
Yeah.
Why did we miss that target? And I don't want to hear this wrong lead crap. There's something I did to create the wrong lead. So, or under or over, whatever. So, but slowing down like that kind of opened up some things. And then I told David, it popped up on my feed. Gebben Miles had recorded Wendell Cherry was in the 2024 Texas State. Wendell had to run the last station to shoot 100 straight. And I don't remember what event, if it was in the prelim or the main or whatever. And I watched that probably half a dozen times. He was so methodical in everything he does. Now, look, I don't want to hear about the comments, he takes too long or whatever. I'm talking about the way he approaches his pre-shot routine. Trace, I was telling David, I was marking trees in the background. Yeah. And how and this is well known, it's been on a podcast, Wendell will run things at half speed in his pre-shot routine. He'll run every target, every move, half speed. Well, when he would turn his head to look for that second target through in that pre-shot routine, the bill of his hat went to within pinpoint accuracy every single time, the exact same place.
Yeah.
And then the way he mounted his gun, the way he pointed his gun, everything was in the exact same place each and every time. Now, I'm not saying you have to be a robot, but understand that for me, that slowing down was, okay, maybe I let that frustration, maybe my mount was bad, maybe my whole point was bad. I let that miss affect me. So that whole slow down stupid thing was, let's slow down and think about what happened here and how to bring that back. And Tracy, you and I have talked about that a little bit in building a pre-shot routine.
Yes. And you're talking about one of the kings of pre-shot and consistency.
Oh, absolutely.
Wendell. Yeah.
But David, you want to elaborate a little bit? I know you're more scatterbrained than I am, but you probably remember this conversation, I'm sure, since it was only 24 hours ago. But you want to elaborate a little bit on some of the things we talked about and what was going on there when I did that?
Yeah, well, I think, I think the best way to elaborate on it would be for you, from a coaching standpoint, in a lesson, when I have somebody that has experience like what you just went through, generally probably the worst thing that I can do is lecture to them about it. And the best thing I can do is to question them about it. And the reason for that is because everybody experiences it differently. And your own interpretation of what your thoughts were, how they affected your preparation, your execution, and the result of that execution is going to be different. The end result is going to be the same, but the valuable part is your own personal experience. Because, like, I actually, this is very pertinent to what the last 2 days of lessons that I had, where I had a student down that came down from Canada for 2 days. And we just got lucky that there was a tournament at the club that I'm teaching at yesterday that I didn't know about. And so I told him, I said, if you think that you can, because this is a surprise, if you think that you can enter this tournament and have me watch but not intervene at all, like I will not give you advice. If you stumble, I'm not going to pull you out of it. I'm not going to talk to you during the round. I want to observe. If you're comfortable with that, if that's valuable to you and you don't feel like it's a waste of a lesson and you think you're going to be able to get in the right mindset, I would prefer to watch you for a full tournament than do the lesson today, because he was at a very similar state in his game to where you are, what you just experienced. And it was awesome. He shot a 98, won the tournament in a shoot off. And I've never seen him shoot like that before. And it was the first time that what was super valuable is that today we had a full day lesson afterwards. He had 2 back-to-back days. And the first 3 hours of the lesson we spent going over his experience of the tournament so that I could get him to understand and compare and contrast the difference in the emotional state that he was in, the way his eyes were working, the way his muscular tension felt, the way that his gun movement felt, the way his decision-making process went, the way his strategy decision-making went, the way that his just conscious dialogue, internal monologue was. Like, compare, yesterday's tournament round to other rounds, and then also compare, the beginning of yesterday's round to the end, where there was without going into more details and blabbering on and on, there was a big shift in his intentfulness and overall presence from the beginning of the round to the end of the round. We were shooting with the other guy that shot a 98, and that guy was straight with 6 stations left, and my student had dropped 2 by his 4th station. And by the 5th station, that guy had dropped 2 birds, and it created an awesome learning experience where my student had to follow the other guy, and that other guy ran the course out. But every station, it was obvious a 98 would win based off of the course. And every station, my student had to follow up the guy he's trying to beat to win, who had just run the station, and then go into a shoot off. And what was very, very cool to see is that, actually, opposite to how most people handle a situation like that, he got calmer, and he got smoother, and he got more deliberate, and he got actually quieter, like body language and his socialization turned more internal. And it was a really, really cool experience. And I wasn't able to follow you around, but immediately after the round, before his shoot off, he was sure that somebody would beat that score, and didn't think it was that hard, and was a little bit, self-critical. And it wasn't until today when we went back out on the course and he realized how incredible a 98 was on that course. And I know from talking to you,
similar thoughts.
Yeah, it's a very, very similar situation. And how, early on you faltered a little bit and then just fought like a caged dog the rest of the round to scrape together everything that you could. And then, I was with you when you saw what the result was, and it came as a shock to you. And and what I think is so interesting is, what is very, very common for rounds to happen is that if people get an opportunity to shoot a tournament round on Sunday and then go back to the exact same course on Monday, 99% of the time that you do that, you'll think that they went out and made all the targets way easier Sunday night. Because when you compare it to how it looked on Sunday, it was completely like Sunday. You'll be convinced the Sunday's course was like 10 times harder. What was very unique in this situation was that, we went out on the course and he was shocked that like everything looked way harder today. And he couldn't believe how easy yesterday looked. And I guarantee you, Jason, that if you were to go out on the course that you finished out on Sunday, that you would feel the same way, which is a rarity. But there's so much psychology involved in all of that, so much like brain chemistry change that influences, another category I had him talk about, compare and contrast, was his perception of time and the dilation of it.
My wife is going to kill you.
Yeah, well, what's new? But,
get in line, huh?
Yeah, but I think a really valuable thing, Jason, would be for you to talk yourself through the differences. For me to ask you, like a great question would be, most people who are highly competitive tend to be their biggest critic, not in a way that they're negatively minded, but in a way that like they'll tend to be, when it comes to their own success. Like a comment that my student made to me today was that it didn't seem like he deserved to win because the round seemed easy. And what I told him was like, and because like in his mind, it should be hard to accomplish if you would be, in order to feel like it was an accomplishment. And what a reframe of that perspective that I gave him was just that, if you just put a parenthesis around the actual round itself, it may have felt like the targets were easy and that you were effortlessly able to move the gun. But if you expand the scope of that audit, that self-audit, and you look at the years you put into the game, the thousands and tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars that you spend to practice, and everything else involved, then it kind of doesn't seem so easy anymore,
Yeah.
And
I need to
talk through some of that stuff.
Well, I need to give Tracy some of the premise on this because I haven't had a chance to talk with him. But so, Trace, I shot at 89, and I told good friend of David and I's, both Todd Archambault was shooting with us, and I told him, I said, man, I shot at 89 on Saturday, and that was the easier of the two courses. And I said, look, I know AA in Ohio, there's a 91 on that course. It's coming. And he's like, it's all right. We got done. And at the end of the day, I was leading by 2 targets, but I'm like, well, that doesn't matter. Half of AA was on the other course. And I'm telling you, there's a 91 on that course.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, couldn't go to sleep that night. I think 2:30, I was the last I looked at my phone. I got up at 6:30, so I had 4 hours of sleep. And we went out and shot the 12 gauge event earlier in that day, and we got done. And I said, well, Todd, were you going to get something to eat, or what do you want to do? We've got a couple hours till the main. And he said, pull over right here. And I pulled the buggy over, and he goes, all right, I'm going to tell you something. You're not going to like it. I said, okay. And he lit into me. He said, you're being I won't say it on the podcast. And he goes, I don't know what you need to do. Go back to the truck and sleep. Go do something. You're dehydrated. You complained about leg cramps and stuff. You told me this morning. He said, go drink a bunch of water, rehydrate, whatever you got to do. You need to sleep. You need to get this out of your system now. And credit to him and Zach Kaiser that shot on our squad, because there was several times on Sunday I wanted to I give up. Not quit, but just give up on the round. I started missing targets at 1, become 2. But I was slowing down. I was, I had that in my conscious. It's like, okay, just stop a minute, man. You need to reset here. And I would run out the rest of the station. But thanks to those two guys for keeping my head in the game. I mean, Todd I think what made me snap a little bit is Todd told me, he's like, look, you got a lot more on the line than I do. Both of those guys were having a bad round, and they were still like, come on, dude, you got to keep fighting. And every single target was a struggle. Lo and behold, nobody shot higher than 89 on the course that I shot on Saturday. And I ended up, one target clear of everyone. And look, guys, I didn't just win the world championship, but to me, David, you remember the podcast we did a few weeks back. I told you there's certain shoots every year that are important to me. Ohio State is one of them. I mean, I've been trying that for almost a decade now. And all the classes I've been in, competing every year at that event, that's one that I hold near and dear to me. And it's the second largest state shoot in the country. I mean, I'm proud of it, and by the way, thank you to everyone that's reached out to me on social media. I cannot believe the thralls of people that have reached out.
Listen, nobody else say another dang thing because he can barely fit his hats anymore.
Come on. No, I sincerely appreciate everything everybody's. I'm serious. It meant a lot, and I appreciate it.
That's a very meaningful performance, no matter what.
Yeah,
I mean, to win a state shoot like that, that's exceptional, and it takes a lot to put 2 days together.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I guess I think Tracy and I both picked up on the same thing that you said, because so like in psychology and just like, I guess, sociology, there's this theme about people that go through hard or traumatic experiences and how you can't really compare one person's experience to another, because realistically, the way that their brain has formed, that the hardest experience that they've ever been through is the hardest one that they know. And so whatever the hardest time that anybody else has gone through is equivalent to the other person's hardest time, even if subjectively the two are not equivalent. And the exact same thing can apply to this, which is that if it is something that really matters to you, then your physiological response to the environment that you are in and the level that you value it is equivalent to something like, for me, I'm the same way as you, Jason. Winning the Ohio State shoot is on par with winning a world championship to me. And my body responds to it in the same way. Like, I can go to a regional championship and be able to, win HOA on the last station. I'm not going to physiologically respond in the same way as if I'm on the last station of the Ohio State shoot about to win. And even though objectively you could say that the Ohio State is a smaller shoot, subjectively it is not. And so why that's important to understand is for you personally in your career of playing this game, the milestone that you were able to achieve is that in the highest level of pressure that you can compete in, you performed. And that's very important to understand because it applies subjectively. And in this case, the subjective experience is the objective one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. It's all
Absolutely.
bullshit. I made it up on the spot, but I just got to make it feel better.
It still made sense, though.
Yeah.
So this is where Tracy gets to get a shovel out and dig through David's brain. But
God.
I'm going to ask you a question, David, that I did on the phone the other day, and I'm going to let you respond. And then I want Tracy's response to it. But then this is where he needs to pick on your answer. Not pick on, but dive into your answer a little bit. Okay. So Tracy, I asked David this question. I compared sporting clay shooters to artists. Okay. Now listen to me.
Okay.
Artists have different styles, different brushes, different canvases, different mediums, right? Like some are oil paint, some are finger paint, whatever. And
I'm the finger paint guy.
We already know that, David. But like we're all different, right? And that's probably maybe a funny comparison, but let's just say it that. So my question to David was two-part question. Is the round your blank canvas, or is the station your blank canvas? And does your Mona Lisa come at the end of the station or the end of the round? Do you remember me asking you this, David?
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and give us your answer.
Yeah, you phrased it a little bit differently. You asked me, is the blank canvas the station or the round? And
Do you end up with 15 Mona Lisas at the end of the round? Or do you end up with one Mona Lisa at the end of the round? And the reason why I'm saying that is because it's kind of asking like how you break it down. How do you break down the tournament, right? So I guess I guess you should have rephrased the question a little bit better.
So my take on it is a good process and a good pre-shot routine are supposed to to a degree nullify the start and the stop of all of that. So I guess I look at it like I'm kind of as good as a life's work. So I try to not really have a start or a finish. It's just a target is a target is a target. And I'm trying to make every single shot perfect. And so the more that I can stay away from a start and a finish, and it's just a collective of work, I almost look at it more like an entire weekend or a week than I do station to station.
Okay.
So, I mean, basically, when you have a start and you have a finish, those are things that bring anxiety and pressure. And to me, I feel like it doesn't matter. I'm not as good as that shoot. I mean, you're quickly forgotten. I mean, you can win this, and I've won over a dozen state shoots, but honestly, I don't really remember any of them. I'm only as good as the next one, as that performance, the next performance in front of me. So it's all about kind of a life's work, a portfolio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, Jason, what did you say before you asked me that question? Because that would give the context for how you meant that. Because what Tracy just said is 100% right. But the way that we threw the question that you asked me on the phone in, it's a different question than what how would you ask the question that you asked me without the analogy?
Well, I was trying to pick your brain on how you would instruct, or even how you personally approach the station. Are you trying to paint a masterpiece with those 6 or 8 targets, or are you trying to paint the masterpiece in the round? Because to me, if you break it down, each station should be a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're only worried about the round in general, a slip here and there would be easier to come, at least for me. I would think that would be easier to come by.
I know this sounds really strange, but like one of the things that I do with my students, especially when I'm trying to teach them process-based shooting, to me, so many people just go out and shoot. They're trying to hit the target, and they're not necessarily competing. And I feel like what you're talking about is you are competing. And when you're competing and you're really in the process, hitting the target is almost a side effect of running your process properly. It is your perfect setup. So many people are really quick to just get back in there, throw 2 shells in there, and pull the trigger. That's where they fix things. That's where they execute things. But really, 90% of it is it's the process. It's the plan. And shooting is just the execution part of it, which is a smaller percentage in my mind. You're running 70 to 80% of your prep, or the shot occurs outside the box. It's that execution phase that is the smaller percentage of it. But when I try and teach a person to do that, we might write out a baseline process and pre-shot routine. And I go out there and we shoot several stations and say, okay, so what is your score right now? And they're like, well, I don't know. Well, how many are you down? I don't know. So are you trying to hit the target anymore? Or are you just trying to run a perfect routine? Well, I'm not even trying to hit the target anymore. I don't know how many I've hit, how many I've lost, or anything. That's kind of that perfect place when they learn how to truly shoot process-based shooting. Yes, it's hard to know when you're only down 2. But to me, that's like the sweet spot. That's when they really discover that it's not all about shooting. It's about competing. And that's the big difference.
I wish I could do that. The better I shoot, the more I know my score. I'm serious.
The more you know your score, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It happened
for me,
it happened at
like
Jack Links on a prelim. I was shooting with Jonathan Henrici, and I had my boot on his throat. And look, Jonathan is no slouch. That guy is a great shot.
That was a great shot.
And I had my boot on his throat all the way around the round. And I mean, I was on like a 96 with 4 to go and walked out with an 87 because I'm an idiot. But I mean, but I knew, right? I'm only down 4 targets. Like I was shooting good. And, at the end of it, he just looked at me and, Jonathan with that crooked smile of his. He's like, you knew what you were doing, didn't you? I'm like, just, I got to go get water. So,
Yeah.
I was saying, but
if I have a good round, it's usually, I know it's good and I know it's only a few, but I usually don't know the perfect number. I'd love to know, is that the case for you, David?
No, I am the opposite, where the more pressure that is on me, the better that I perform, but not in the way that most people would interpret that statement in thinking that there's ego involved in it. It's actually because of the complete opposite, which is that I lack the discipline required to do everything that I need to do in order to be as good as I am, unless there's something on the line that I can lose. And
Gotcha.
the more aware I am of what's on the line and how close I am to it, the less of an ability that I have to be distracted by something else, and the easier that I have an ability to stay disciplined and on task and reject any incoming invitation to go look at a squirrel in a tree, basically.
So has it always been like that, David? So like back when you won your first US Open and stuff like that, did you still have to utilize pressure to get that focus?
So that's a really good question. What I would say is that it has always been that way for my whole life, but I was never afforded the opportunity to learn that until I was about 17 or 18 years old, because the normal and by far majority of people that compete would say that it is true that you need to be more present and unaware of the score and all of those things. And so like the way I was taught, the way that for example, that US Open that I won when I was 16, my parents and Wendell did everything they could to keep the score from me. They protected me from knowing. But the problem was that at that point in time, the thing that would hide that would be that I was always shooting with Wendell. And at the time, if we went to 17 tournaments in a year, Wendell would win 15 of them. And even as a 12-year-old kid, I didn't care about competing against the kids. I wanted to beat Wendell. So I always shot with the guy that I was trying to beat and generally would beat everybody else. And so that kind of like skirted around me not knowing what the actual real scoreboard looked like, because if I knew what he was station by station, then that put that pressure on me. But then once I learned that by accident the score helps me, then I actually was able to, once I got older and wasn't shooting with Wendell so much, I was able to maintain that consistency. But yeah, that's a great question.
So usually a byproduct of creating pressure is you get tight. You don't move the gun quite as efficiently. A lot of people thought process speeds up, things like that. How do you regulate those variables when you're purposefully adding pressure, but still have to manage those byproducts?
So anybody that's ever not just taken a lesson from me, but listened to me on a podcast probably rolls their eyes when I start talking about self-awareness. And because it's so important to me, and it's really important in my teaching, and that is because of the fact that exactly what you just asked me is 100% true. And it's why I'm such a huge proponent of the importance of some type of pre-shot routine and an event routine. And, just basically there, you need to create habitual things that you're doing to, for me, self-audit and assess my physical, mental, and visual state at all times to understand where the status of that is, and then either make the decision of should I and can I manipulate one of those or all of those three things to get them where I need them to be in order to execute my plan as intended? Or do I lack the ability to do that manipulation of, reducing physical tension or emotional anxiety or visual discontinuity? And because of the fact that I can't do that right now and I can't suppress those things, that I need to come up with a plan that allows for the lack of control of one of those three categories and subdues the negative side effects of them. And so basically, it's why in what I do, I'm so much of a proponent of being able to consciously switch back and forth between being what you would call interoceptively aware versus exteroceptively aware and attentive, because I need to, before every pair, switch my, in shooting a tournament, our attention is and should be extraceptive, like extero-ceptive, and it should be attentive to the target, because if your attention is not on the target, you're lacking the visual data to drive the body non-consciously in the movement that you've practiced your whole life. So it has to be out on the bird. And if that's why in practice, when we're paying attention to changing how we move, we can't see as well and shoot as good unless we then again switch to being more connected to the bird visually. But in my process and routine in a round, after I shoot every pair, I have to then flip it from being extraceptive to being interoceptive and assessing, like, okay, what is the level of physical tension that I have? And how calm and relaxed are my eyes? How easily can I settle them and not anticipate the start of the bird because of the anxiety that I'm experiencing, and then move my eyes unintentionally? And all of these things. And once I assess that, the only way I can assess that is if I stop paying attention to what's outside around me and start paying attention to what I feel and what I'm thinking and how I'm seeing. And then I use that data to make the decision of, do I manipulate my plan or can I manipulate myself, essentially?
Well, and you know what? Hold on one second, Trey. That's something I should have alluded to with the whole slow down stupid thing. David, you know the saying that I hate the most: be where your feet are.
Oh, yeah.
But it was, and this is where you're going to be proud of me, it's part of that self-awareness that came into that slow down stupid.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's what helped me.
Yeah.
That's what made me aware of what I did and I need to fix.
One of the statements that you made to me on the phone the other day was that, instead of just quickly getting ready and trying harder, I instead was able to, what you said, instead was able to stop and slow down and think about why I missed and make a change and then implement that. And that is a less David way of saying everything that I just said.
So in my pre-shot routine, basically I have a set 1 second pause before I'm allowed to call for the bird, and that's where I active listen. And if I can hear the calm, so if I can hear the wind in the trees, the birds in the background, something like that, then I'm in the proper brain speed to basically shoot at my highest level. If I can't hear that, that means that I need to open the gun back up, slow myself down mentally, and then re-execute. So do you have like a specific trigger or something that you're very specifically looking for and then a specific set of tools to treat kind of basically what you're dealing with at that time.
Yeah. So this is where what I say in lessons, is that this is where my favorite part about working with people on this kind of thing is what I call the discovery process, because my immediate answer to that question would be no, I don't, because the way that my brain works, not just in shooting, but 100% of the time, if I have a set thing to do, then when I trigger it, it completely pulls my attention to that thing, and then it undoes the depth at which I have achieved in my attention and focus on the thing that I'm trying to execute, which is the move. And so, like, the way my brain works is I can't, and this is what I struggled with for 10 years of my, I would actually say longer than that. I would say until I was 26 years old. So 17 years of my shooting career, I struggled with thinking that what I had to do was have a insanely consistent routine that I could write on paper and implement within 0.2 of a second, and in the exact same order, in the exact same process every single time. That was a mental checklist. And what would happen to me is that, I mean, like, my ability to do that is insanely good. You could time me. If I went through and did my routine now that I did 10 years ago, it would be exactly 36.2 seconds, and I haven't done it in 10 years. But the problem that I would have, and I would do drills where I would have people time me all the time, and it never varied more than 0.2 of a second. But the problem that I would have that made no logical sense to me was, why is it that the preparation for execution is so identically consistent over every single shot that I ever shoot, and my preparation for my mechanics prior to the event and during the event is perfect, and my ability to execute the physical mechanics that I'm trying to plan is almost 100%. Yet the consistency of the way that I experience every tournament that I go to is essentially 0%. And that made no sense to me, why everything that you should measure that should create consistency always led to inconsistency. Not necessarily inconsistency in my result, but eventually you get to a point where, regardless of the input, you can get a pretty good output. But what I was struggling with is that, why is it that I can go to a round and the way I experience it will be hyper insanely present and fully immersed in the thing that I'm doing in the exact moment that I'm doing it. And then the next day or a different tournament with all the exact same inputs, it feels like I'm playing a movie on a replay reel in my head, and I'm not actually involved in doing it at all. And when I have a round like that, I can shoot 95% as good as my capability. When I have a round like the first example, I can shoot 100%, and that's the difference between winning the shoot and not. And so for me, what I ended up learning about, and it actually made me a really good coach, is that, like, the internal experience that people have in the way, like, depending on how, you could call it neurodivergent or neurotypical or whatever you want to call it. But the way that different people's personalities are, and the way that their brain chemistry is, massively impacts how that is successful or unsuccessful for them. And the way that I like to try to define it is, instead of valuing, this is where it becomes opposite from actual shooting. I don't value the process of my routines. I do value the process of my round. But for me, my routine the thing that I value is the product. And the product is that I get to a physical, mental, and visual state that I know allows me to repeat the thing that I did on the previous pair in the exact same way with the exact same inputs. And I don't care how I get to that point, but as long as I get there, that's what I care about. And if I could somehow hook my mind up to a thing that would replay what I'm seeing, and record what I'm seeing, record what I'm thinking, and record what I'm doing and what my intent is between every pair. In the last 10 years, going back to, let's say, 2016, you would find that there would almost never be two pairs back to back that are the same, both in how long it took me to do that thing and in what I was doing. And it varies so wildly. You would almost think that like, there's no way that is right. But it goes from all the way from not doing anything to actually really visualizing things, to only paying attention to breath work and physical release of tension and not trying to visualize anything, to just distracting myself with like physical routines of things. Or like, this is where it gets really crazy on the opposite end of the spectrum, like almost like teasing myself in the negative, like telling myself that there's no way that I can do that thing, to like almost bet myself that I would fail so that I can prove myself wrong. Like, there's so many things that it varies all over. But what I have found in the past 10 years is that my ability now, and especially in the last 5 years, to have a completely consistent experience, like the way that it feels like the round is happening, is almost 100%, even though the process is not.
So basically, in the course of a round, or so you're talking about in the course of one round from station to station, your preparation will change kind of based off where you are, or is it from day to day?
From pair to pair.
From pair to pair. Okay.
Yeah.
So you did mention a few things though that sound like tools. Like you talked about breathing. Mm-hmm. You talked about basically the process of developing your process and your plan can be kind of calming and grounding, mm-hmm. and kind of help you stay in a specific place. So do you think that that's why it changes, kind of based off your needs of kind of, do you need more grounding? Do you need to be more calm? Do you think that's when you're able to either cut those corners or kind of where you need to put more emphasis on those tools or whatnot?
Yeah. And also, it's exactly right. It's 100% based in that's why it's so important for me to do that, like self audit. So like I'm assessing what physical level of tension and emotional anxiety do I have? How calm are my eyes, mm-hmm. compared to what do they need to be at to do what I'm planning on doing? But then also, mm-hmm. it's not always, I would say it's about a 50-50 on whether I need more grounding or more calming, versus mm-hmm. the other 50% of the time, I need to amp myself up more. I need to create more. Like I need to, like half the time I'm too flat, and it causes me to feel disengaged, and then I don't have the attention and focus in intensity that I need. And so then my program actually is like, that's where I'll flip to the negative. I try to make it harder, or for a lack of better terms, scarier, or make myself more nervous. And it's just a constant. And there can be times where in one station, I'll feel really flat because I'm disengaged or disinterested, or like the targets are boring to me. And then mm-hmm. I'll shoot the first, and I'll try to amp myself up so that I can focus, and so that I do have like more finesse and more control and more intensity visually. And I'll shoot the first pair, and then I'll be like, holy shit, that was hard. And mm-hmm. then that will amp me up too much. And then the very next pair, I'm trying to calm down, and I did it too mm-hmm. well. And I'll shoot the pair, another dead pair. And then after I shoot that pair, I've relaxed too much, and I got to bring it back up again. Sometimes it can go back and forth in one station.
Wow.
Yeah. I've noticed myself, if I'm like down 2 and I've got 3 stations left and I start to feel fearful, I will shoot really aggressively. I'll shoot things very fast. I basically am trying to harness the meanest me that can be there.
Yes.
Because if I'm mean, I'm not afraid. You know, I'm not afraid to miss.
That's a very good point. I completely forgot about that. A lot of times my strategy for how I take the pair is a huge portion of my routine. Like if I am feeling too flat and disengaged, I'll shoot the pair in a much harder place because it's scarier and it amps me up and it gets me more focused. And I'm basically betting on, okay, is it a bigger payoff to shoot a harder pair and be more focused, or shoot an easier pair and be disengaged? And sometimes I make that choice incorrectly, and my strategy for how I played that round costs me a win, you know?
Yeah.
But that's just the way the game is played for me, you know. And I would also definitely make sure that I clarify. I'm definitely not saying that this is how everybody needs to do it. It is 100% the worst way to approach the game for at least 50% of the people that play it.
Yeah. Well, hold all those thoughts, because I want to know pressure. Because you talked about that, David, how you perform better under pressure. I want to know how pressure affects that. However, I knew this was going to happen. We're going to have to follow up with this next week. Everyone, please don't forget the Dead Pair Blast is quickly approaching at Rocky Creek. It's up on Score Chaser, December 11th and 12th. Please sign up for that. We'd love to see you there. I got these 2 yahoos on the phone here with me that said they're going to be there. And then also the Dead Pair raffle, that Dead Pair Kolar gun. It's a chance to get a $23,000 gun for $75. Get your tickets there. Oh, by the way, the new website's up.
Oh, yeah.
Time you guys are hearing this, the website will be up. We're only 2 days away from launching. I'm super excited about that. Don't forget our Patreon page. It's free to join. If you subscribe, you get the call-in number and get to participate in the live scoop shows, which we have one of those coming up. All kinds of goodies. Our message is the same each and every week. Take someone new shooting, take them to a tournament, get them involved in this game so that they become head cases like David. Then you can go to coaches. Then you can go to coaches like Tracy and he'll fix you. So, this is really good.
Jason, do not curse Tracy with that.
But no, this has been a really good conversation. And I know Tracy's got a truckload more questions. We're going to follow this up next week. I'll let Tracy do a recap. So we'll keep David on a leash a little bit there on that one. But guys, thanks for joining us. I appreciate this. Let's get back with these guys next week and let them hear more of David's squirrel running around in his head. So, but no, thanks guys. I appreciate it. Until next week, everyone. Can't wait to catch you back here on the Dead Pair Podcast.
We'll see you next time on the Dead Pair Podcast.
The Dead Pair Podcast is brought to you by Kolar Arms, America's competition shotgun, and is fueled by Fiocchi USA. The Dead Pair theme song was written, arranged, and produced by Toby Tomplay. Big thanks to the following sponsors: RE Ranger, see it further, see it faster with Ranger Performance Eyewear. Atlas Traps, America's finest clay target equipment. Gun and Trophy Insurance, protect your prized possessions with the best insurance. Rhino Chokes, the best chokes and barrel porting in the world. Taconic Distillery. After the tournament, it's time for one more shot with Taconic Distillery. Long Range, the industry standard for trap release and target management. Score Chaser, your shoots simplified. Midway USA Foundation, changing the future of youth shooting sports. Odo Pro Technologies, the trusted source for hearing protection. Bear Pelt, it's not just a vest, it's your new uniform. El Jefe Energy, fuel for the fearless. And J-Tech, the Dead Pair Podcast's technology partner.